Nobody knows how long this once flagship sedan Mercedes S650 Maybach stood on the outskirts of the village. It was known that this came of the assembly line almost 50 years ago and lived a rich life. The author found it in a deplorable condition and, not afraid of difficulties, decides to give the car a second life. The car looked not very good, although he had cases much worse. The body of the Mercedes was covered with a small layer of corrosion, and the windows were targets for local boys with the slingshots. At the same time, all body and other elements were available. There were no noticeable defects under the hood, and the interior looks quite decent. The hero's eyes sparkled with excitement. The first thing he tried to start the engine. The native battery was able to rotate the crankshaft several times, and that was the end of its resource. But at least it became clear that the engine did not jam. Next, the hero connected an electric pump and began to pump up the wheels. Surprisingly, after a long downtime, the tires remained intact, and after a few minutes, the Mercedes was almost on the move. Then the restorer had to break the windshield with a hammer and cut out the frame with a chisel. After that, he removed all the fragments scattered around the cabin. Fortunately, he had a vacuum cleaner at hand, which greatly accelerated the process. Then followed a careful dismantling of bumpers and optics. German quality surprised again. All the chips snapped off easily and the bolts unscrewed. Upon completion of these works, it was time to clean the body. After the first touch of the grinding disc to the body, one could make an unambiguous conclusion. The metal remained untouched, although the paintwork was completely destroyed. The offer was placed. He would not have to weld pieces of metal and putty. He methodically cleaned all the elements to metal, from which Mars began to resemble a car from a movie about the apocalypse. The biggest complaints from the hero were caused by the hood. It had serious dents. But the master applied the sacred technique of jackhammer and skillfully adjusted the German metal. Then he went over the seals with wings, quickly brought the body to the state in which he was hung off the conveyor. In an effort to get a perfect result, the author dilated some putty and applied it into the hood. It turned out even better than in garages at Chinese people. The process was so engrossing that putty gradually appeared on all doors, on wings and on trunk lid. Such an enthusiasm for putty resulted in a long grinding. He had to go literally over every millimeter of these tails and rub them. After a few hours, a serious tremor started in his hand, but he still managed to sand down the body and move on to painting. For some unknown reason, the restorer refused to prime and immediately moved on to painting. He did not even realize that by this decision he violated all possible technologies and about 20 environmental standards of Germany. The cover was close and appropriate. It was called Lemur Pink. There was no shortage of paint, so the homegrown tuning enthusiasm applied it in several layers. After painting, the hero removed the hood and, using a lift, extracted a powerful atmospheric engine. He could just try to change the oil in the engine, and instead of the dried German grease, fill in anew. But the author preferred to carry out completely disassembly of the power unit. Using a screwdriver and some matter, he scattered the engine into moleculars in an hour. He removed literally everything. During the disassembly, it became clear why the car turned into a light real estate. One of the pistons had an elegant hole on top, and since it was useless to look for these parts and the scrap yards, the restorer simply welded it and sanded it. The fine corner in the restaurant, the engine, was washing it with a high-pressure machine with foam from the nearest stall. To everyone's surprise, nanotechnologies worked, the engine sparkled, and all that remained was to carry out reverse assembly. Previously, the hero painted it in a noble black color, thereby emphasizing his belonging to the dark forces. How else to explain that the engine assembled on his knee and without special tools could work without gadgets and on palm oil? Of course, the palm oil thing is a joke, but everything else is pure truth. It is not known how the hero did not confuse the fasteners and managed to assemble the engine. His work could be envied even by prim burghers, but by that time they probably had pondered because of the technological assembly of Mercedes. Installing the equipment, the hero moved on to the gearbox. Apparently he had a gift of clairvoyance. Without any diagnostics, the master identified a malfunction of the automatic transmission and began to disassemble it. On one of the stars he found a cut tooth and quickly welded it. It doesn't matter that the new tooth turned out to be cracked and did not match its brother in size. The focus with welding turned out to be not the most terrible. After washing the box with the same cracker with the foam on it, another hole was found. It seemed the welding would come into play again. But the hero applied a proven method of Indian rickshaws and patched up the hole with the super glue and soda. Henry Ford would have turned over in his grave at the sight of such blasphemy. An art tuning enthusiast just smirked and began to clean up the repaired unit this with sandpaper. He fiddled a little more with the automatic transmission, washed the stars and returned them to their respective axes. The box itself was painted in the same black color and installed in the place. The power part and the restoration itself were over. There were only trifles left. At the end of the process, the author carefully washed the interior, changed the battery, installed all windows and headlights. The car was transformed, although the color a la rip out your eyes clearly did not add premiumness to it. During the test drive, the engine started on the first try. The restorer was able to ride around the village, which scared local residents a lot. As a result, from an old Jurassic tub turned out another pink tub that could move without outside help. Perhaps the author will write wedding on it or burn it during a ritual of exorcising demons. The story is silent about this. Thanks for watching and also for the likes and subscriptions to the channel. See you soon.